I guess I shop at a lot of places. I don't know, Target a lot, some thrift stores.
Forever 21, H&M, Macy's, like regular stores.
Like Brandy Melville and stuff. Pink.
Forever 21, Abercrombie, all those typical teenage stores.
No, not necessarily.
Not really.
China. I don't know.
I think they're made in China because that's what the label says on my clothes. Or Indonesia. Or Vietnam.
Sometimes, but then the cost of it also comes into play sometimes, and it's easier to buy like cheaper things, I guess.
No.
I do not.
No, I usually just shop. I don't really think about it.
Isn't it where people work under really poor conditions for really low wages?
I've heard of them, but I don't entirely know what they are.
Yeah, it's a place where someone works for really low wages or under really poor conditions.
Yes.
Yes. I think it's people are put under harsh treatments and stuff, and they don't get paid a lot for all the work that they do.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. And then I can have clothes that are made in America by people who get paid right and good environments. Or I can make my own clothes, sew myself.
Yes, but I think it would really hurt the economy in other countries, at least third world countries.
I think that we can all become more cautious of where our clothes come from by reading the labels and just being more aware.
Maybe donating to an organization that'll help stop this horrible issue, and or volunteering for something.
I don't know. I mean, hopefully. I know companies will have to make their clothes cost more if they stop using sweatshops, but that's I don't know.
Although sweatshops exist all over the world, they are most notable in Asia. The countries with the worst conditions are Bangladesh, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia. They often have poor working conditions, unreasonable work hours, unfair wages, child labor, and a lack of benefits for their workers. Sweatshops have been a source of protection for goods around the world for centuries. But the globalization of business had led increasing numbers of major corporations to take advantage of low-cost sweatshop labor in developing countries.
H&M is the largest buyer of clothing made in Bangladesh. Although they signed the Bangladesh Accord on Fire and Building Safety 3 years ago, 70% of its factories are still lacking assets necessary to making a safe workplace. In January 2016, it was reported that all factories that had lockable doors have removed those locks. But alarmingly, about 69% of these factories still have not yet completed installation of fire-rated doors needed for workers to safely exit the factories. In an H&M factory in Cambodia, it was reported that since 2010, approximately 8,000 Cambodian workers collapsed while making stocks for H&M. These collapses were linked to malnutrition, excessive heat, and long hours. Workers disclosed that they are paid about $112 a month, which is less than the country's minimum wage.
Nike, another big company that depends on sweatshop productions, prioritizes costs over the safety of their workers. There was a case of a building collapse in Bangladesh where 1,100 people died due to the dangerous work environment and untidiness of the place as a whole. Considered to be unsafe, a massive fire hazard, and such a symbol of this low-cost manufacture, the conditions that these people are working in depicts the ignorance of their employers. Many companies decide that offshoring their business is most beneficial, but that is solely for themselves. It is a business war of profit and welfare. Having their production based overseas in Asia, where safe working environments are not enforced and set wages are not required, big corporations can easily take advantage of this situation.
In Walmart's factories, children workers were reported to be routinely slapped and beaten, sometimes collapsing from exhaustion and hunger. They are forced to work 12 to 14 hours a day, and some all night, often 7 days a week, for wages as low as 6 cents an hour. The wages are so low that many of the children workers get up at 5 a.m. to earn as much as they can. Not only did the U.S. company fail to notice the child labor, the abuse, and the excessive forced overtime, but also not one single worker in the harvest-rich industry of Bangladesh was receiving the correct overtime pay.
Serving as a negative externality for the country, closing down sweatshops would increase their unemployment rate. The economy would show threatening signs of such a change, which should be enough to force their government to take action.
Gross domestic production indicates an increase or decrease in economic activity, the amount of goods produced, the amount that people are buying, and the sum of money flowing in the economy. The continuous trend of increased GDP and economic activity surely adds to the health of a country, but when economists notice the decline in activities due to the closure of sweatshops, it is an indicator for change.
Not that we want sweatshops to close altogether. We simply want to improve their working conditions. In order to promote safety, more reasonable work hours, and a more realistic salary for these factory workers, those with power, employers, and government alike have to either change or enforce the policies that have been long neglected. 1. Stop buying from companies that use sweatshops as a whole.
2. Support union-made, local, or secondhand products.
'There's nothing like the sound of a child's laughter, is there? Well, we agree. And in order to make sure we can hear as many giggles and laughs as we can possibly hear, we would like to remind you to please keep
3. Ask questions to companies regarding the origins of their products.
4. Help educate others on the truth behind sweatshops.
The exploitative conditions will only change if we demand change. Sweatshop workers around the world are demanding better conditions, and we can support them by promoting sweatshop-free policy.
We hope for consumers to realize where their clothes are actually from and why they are considered inexpensive.